There's not many cars nowadays that are two-dimensional in terms of appeal, which is to say when you buy a new hatchback, an SUV or a sports car, there tends to be a fair bit of crossover, pardon the pun. But the Mitsubishi Shogun Sport is a bit different, aimed at those that just want a car that can batter any terrain. It's not really concerned with any of the other stuff. It's basically a pickup truck with 7 seats, and in fact, mechanically it's very similar to its L200 brother. But is there really space in today's market for a traditional off-roader? Well, let's start by doing what the Shogun Sport allegedly does best, and we picked some lovely weather for it. So the Shogun Sport is sold as a go-anywhere 4x4, and as standard, there's 4-wheel drive, a locking rear differential, and hill descent control, and that all works around a proper old-school ladder frame chassis. So in short, it sounds capable, and it is capable. I mean, in standard rear wheel, 2-wheel drive mode, it does feel a bit cumbersome, but put it into one of its many 4-wheel drive modes and throw some dodgy dirt roads or hills its way, and it is solid. I mean, you can just feel the wheels pulling and contorting the way over rough terrain with ease. And depending on what terrain you're on, there is a gravel mode, and there's also a mud and snow mode, with each mode sending power to the wheels in a slightly different way. But ultimately, whatever mode you choose, the car will send power to the gripping wheels for increased traction. And here's some figures for you. There's 218 millimeters of ground clearance, it can tow 3.1 tons, and there's 700 millimeters wading depth. Understandably, it's a bit of a different story on road. So the only engine available is a 2.4 litre, 181 horsepower diesel, mated to an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now, there's enough power in the engine, just about, but this 8-speed automatic is hard work. I mean, it just holds onto gears for a bit too long when it shouldn't do. And okay, the paddle shifters on the steering wheel do help a little bit. Actually, they help quite a lot, really. They make the gearbox much more manageable, but I just can't see someone exclusively using them. And the engine's not that efficient either. On a 500-mile motorway journey, I managed to get around 33 miles per gallon on average. And with CO2 of 227 grams per kilometre, you're looking at a 37% BIK tax bracket for 2019 and 2020. Then there's the steering and the ride quality. Okay, it does absorb bumps quite well because of the big springs, but I mean, I'm on a pretty smooth road now, and even after you go over a minor bump, it does fidget a bit and struggle to place its feet back down. And the steering's got that really rubbery elastic feel, especially when recentering after a bend, and it does feel more like a van and commercial vehicle rather than a car. And it's not very often I say this, but the Shogun Sport actually feels bigger than it looks on the road when you're driving it. I mean, it looks like a big car anyway, but it does feel even bigger when maneuvering car parks and taking tight bends. And the indicators are on the right, not the left. But it is good off-road. One thing I will say about the cabin is that it does look better in the daytime, because at night there's no way of hiding that retro orange lighting that these buttons have. Anyway, apart from its hardware and conservative design, the Shogun Sport is fairly well equipped, with our 4 Auto model getting these lovely leather seats. You also get a reversing camera, DAB radio, Bluetooth, and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Although the touchscreen system does feel a bit dated and can be slow to react at times. Some useful safety kit on our model includes adaptive cruise control, forward collision mitigation, and an array of beeps and flashes to make sure you don't turn into someone's lane when you're on the motorway. But the cabin is certainly more hardware and impractical rather than tech savvy, with loads of little useful cubbies dotted around. And again, I've got to mention these lovely leather seats. And in fact, these seats make the cabin feel more accommodating than you'd think, given its lack of showboaty tech. Well, first off, the doors open nice and wide, which is always a plus, and you get a grab handle to haul yourself in. And once you're in here, you'll notice that you do actually sit quite high up, so you can see what's going on ahead. And these seats, just like the front, are very comfortable. But even though you do sit a bit jacked up, headroom's pretty good actually. And so's legroom, even though you've got this chunky transmission tunnel here, but there's plenty of footwell room, so that's only really going to be an issue if you sat in the middle like this. Now, when it comes to those 2 additional seats in the back, it's a bit of a funny one because this system is a bit complicated, right? So first off, these seats flop all the way forward, which is always, practicality-wise, always a really good feature to have, like that. But then the seats at the back actually, well, I'll show you, the bottoms of them fold forward to block some of the luggage, but the bottom of them needs to fold down like that. And then you need to get back like this and fold these down here. And once you're back here and you fold that back, it is pretty cramped. So you're probably better reserving it for kids. Now, getting out. Those seats, although they are a bit of a faff to fold down, do fold down pretty flat. Although when you've got all these folded, the second row do stick out a bit and you can't really do anything about that. Thankfully, Mitsubishi's fitted these cool elastically held flaps here to help smooth out any bumps to those front seats. Now with all the seats down, you get up to 1500 litres of storage space, and it may not have the neat practicality tricks of a Skoda. I mean, as good as it gets is this little compartment here, but overall the Shogun is pretty practical. So what's our verdict on the Shogun Sport? Well, cars are very difficult to pigeonhole nowadays, and that's mainly because they're so versatile. The Shogun Sport, however, is a bit different because, well, it's a one-trick pony really. It's an agricultural off-roader, and that's it. I know, laughable to some, especially those city slickers with German SUVs that can go off-road, tell jokes and fly, probably. But if you're after a no-nonsense off-roader that can batter any terrain and put up with the toils of family life, then the Shogun Sport may be just what you're after. Given there are cheaper ways to achieve that, with this Shogun Sport starting at 30 grand, I mean, the very capable Suzuki Jimny starts at around half that, although it is the size of a matchbox.